Kia ora, Council. Firstly, I just want to begin by thanking you for the opportunity to talk, and I acknowledge it's probably been a long couple of weeks, so I will do my very best not to go over time. As most of you know, the P3 Orion aircraft arrived by road in 2023, and some of you came to the museum to view that incredible aircraft. The C-130 Hercules flew in, literally, on the 19th of February, with the museum seeing huge levels of interest, and some of you may have seen some of that coverage in the media. Our own videos and posts about the Hercules have clocked up more than 2.3 million views since February. And we had a similar level of interest with the Orion when it arrived on its road trip from Blenheim in 23. We knew the interest would be huge, but we've been blown away by just how much. Last year, our Orion Open Days attracted over 9,000 people over 4 days, and we're expecting a similar number for our Hercules Open Days, which are happening as I speak. There is definitely a large public interest in these aircraft. However, as you know, and the reason I'm sitting here is because we don't have a space large enough to display these incredible aircraft, hence our requirement for a new exhibition hall. I thank you for your consideration of including a contribution of $5 million in the years ahead, noting that this comes with the conditions of public consultation, the rest of the funds being raised first, and the business case for which I've been liaising with your staff. I'm just here to reiterate that submission and not to ask for any more. We are doing this for the benefit of the public, so that they can come and learn about the amazing stories of service and sacrifice that these aircraft speak of. It is all about telling the stories, so that when the public look at these aircraft, they don't just see two large planes. Instead, when they look at the Hercules, they see the aircraft that brought the first search and rescue teams into Christchurch after the earthquakes. They see the aircraft that's flown to and from Antarctica since 1965, full of scientists and equipment. They see the aircraft that has deployed New Zealanders to conflicts and peacekeeping missions around the world, as well as responding to every major disaster relief that our country has been involved in, both at home and abroad, over the past 60 years. It is also the aircraft that has had the sad task of bringing our fallen home, as well as those who died in the Erebus tragedy. When they look at the Orion, they will see the hundreds, if not thousands, of lives saved of fishermen and yachties lost at sea who, when they heard the sound of the Orion's engines, knew that they had been found. They will see the decades of patrolling our economic zone and the economic zones of our Pacific neighbours to ensure their fishing resources were not being exploited. They will also see the aircraft that was involved in finding the French agents who bombed the Rainbow Warrior. Some may still say they are just big metal objects, but they are so much more. The wairua that flows through these aircraft talks about the past 60 years of our country through the major events it has been involved in. Some will view them with a sense of awe. Some may be inspired by the stories. Some may quietly reflect on their own personal connection with these aircraft, and some, like myself, will look at them like an old friend. With respect to our museum, I've previously shared about what a wonderful asset it is for Ōtautahi Christchurch. The fact we come at no cost to the ratepayer. We've been rated by TripAdvisor in the top 10% attractions in the world for the last 3 years, and have given a significant amount of free community support is something not many are aware of. Some examples of that support are the 17 overflow containers of exhibition material from the Canterbury Museum that are currently being stored on our site, the Littleton Museum collection that has been stored with us since the earthquakes, the buildings for the Antarctic Heritage Trust, which are also being stored with us. Just this week, 2 of my staff went to the Canterbury Rugby Football Union to meet with their archive staff to give them advice on how they can share their memorabilia when they go into the new stadium. And this Tuesday, the New Zealand Blood Service will be conducting one of their regular blood drives at the museum. We don't charge a cent for any of this support because we see it as our role to support our heritage sector and support our community. Today at the museum, as I mentioned before, we are allowing the public to view the partially dismantled Hercules in our storage hangar, whilst at the same time running a space event in conjunction with Christchurch Rocketeers, both free events for the public. That is why I am here alone, as the team are working this weekend to deliver these events, and I will be heading straight back there after this. We do this whilst primarily being a place to remember, to reflect, and be inspired by the stories of service and sacrifice of ordinary New Zealanders. And it is the stories of service and sacrifice that is behind our desire to get these wonderful aircraft on display. And on that note, when it comes to storytelling and remembrance, As this year is the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, I just want to mention 3 young men from Christchurch who served in our Air Force in World War II and never came home. They are among the over 4,800 names on a roll of honour in the museum's atrium. Sergeant Douglas Gordon, killed in air operations on the 16th of October 1942, aged 20. Flying Officer Geoffrey Merson, killed in an aircraft accident 12th of August 1944, aged 22. And Sergeant William Trolove, killed in air operations on the 31st of May 1944, aged 20. The reason I mention Doug, Jeff and William is because they all worked for the Christchurch City Council prior to going to war. They are 3 of the 341 names from Christchurch, and the average age of the over 4,800 names in a roll of honour is 24. The museum staff and I are dedicated to continuing to tell their story and that of all of our servicemen and women to whom we owe a great deal. Through the Hercules and the Orion, we'll continue to tell those incredible stories of service and sacrifice. We are building more than just a building. This is the forever home for these national heroes. And through these aircraft, we will tell their stories so that all can learn and be inspired by the deeds of ordinary New Zealanders. Lastly, if you are unsure, then I personally invite you to come to the museum to see the Hercules, to stand inside it and let it share its stories with you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion for serving our city. And thank you for listening. Now, welcome any questions.
Thank you, mate. Sam?
Yeah, hey, thank you, Brett, for that. That's really good. Can you just remind me, how does the structure work in terms of paying rates? So, because some government entities don't, but your one does, from memory?
Yes, the NZDF does pay rates to the council. I think it's currently about $350,000 a year.
Right. So if you got this building on there,
our rates would increase from the council.
And
from the
House
Defence.
pay for that, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Be cool when we get, and I know we've talked about this before, get the advice, some more advice on it, just what that additional impact would be in terms of the rates, because it's effectively money from government out of Wellington. So.
Okay. Sarah?
Thank you.
No, sorry, Sarah. Okay, sorry.
Thanks so much for that. I was wondering, so as a council, we tend to try and not take on the responsibility for things that are the government agency's responsibility. And I'm just wondering where the Defence Force sits in doing this project, because it seems like that would be a responsibility for the Defence Force.
We're a hybrid, Sarah, so we're partly the Air Force and the Defence Force will look after the maintenance of the buildings and they'll look after a number of the staff. And current budget cuts, though, we're losing some of our staff, and we have a trust board, though, and it's the trust board that built the last building, which was $16 million. The Defence put no capital into that, but Defence picked up the maintenance cost for that ongoing in perpetuity. Yeah. I personally have my views, which are probably similar to yours, on what they do, but in the current climate, I am passionate about the Air Force, and I believe that Defence should be contributing. It's supposed to be a partnership between the Trust Board having to raise a certain amount and the Crown, but currently everything is focused not on the museum. That may change. I personally think in today's climate, we need to be focusing on the museum more, so when you look at the world, so that we stand in front of those names and we don't repeat.
And given the recent indication of a large injection of money into the Defence Force, do you think that there's more potential maybe for the Defence Force to stump? I mean, I know it's like, for example, you think in education, there are things we think the Ministry for Education should be doing, they sometimes don't. And as a council, we don't necessarily pick up those costs because we still see it as a core education thing.
Yeah, I think we are, it's all the government money is all operationally focused, and we are come under support community, so we're kind of, I think we're just as important to the story we tell, but it's about the people like you here that make the decisions. If I could speak to Cabinet, I would love to speak to Cabinet. And we are a national museum, but I think the overwhelming benefit for our city, when we built the last one, I think the council kindly put in a contribution to that, but that kept tens, if not hundreds of millions coming to our city through the events we were able to hold until the new convention centre. And this will pay back. if half of what we expect comes in, then it will be a financial impact of over $3 million to the city per year ongoing for a one-off contribution. You won't have to pay any of the staff wages, you won't have to pay any of the maintenance, you won't have to do anything, and that's just based on our visitor numbers.
So you think you'll get additional visitor numbers from having this meeting?
Absolutely. When I spoke last time, for example, the Orion Open Days, we had 9,000 through, and 10% of them came from out of town just to have a look at the Orion. You know, so that one event alone was over based on how MB work out their figures, over 300,000. When we have the Warbirds over Wanaka, you know, if just 10% of them say, hey, we get the chance to look at a Herc and an Orion, let's spend a night in Christchurch. If just 10% of them stayed, that would be over $1 million just for them, 10% of them spending a night in the city. So I think there is huge. And also, we have 176,000 visitors already bringing huge economic impact into our city.
And I guess the last question is, what happens if we're not able to because there are other priorities?
Well, I guess that is a great question. I think that for me, the council support, what it does is it shows that if you believe in the project, and if you believe that the huge interest is there, then it can be to other agencies. My bosses, the council are contributing. They get it. They can see the value in this. Where is Defence? Where is the government? So, and we're having those conversations at the moment. The
question wasn't what if we do. The question is what if we're not able to.
I will be continuing to fundraise as an XC130 pilot. The board are looking at employing a fundraiser to do it, but first of all, it's any fundraising, it's the big support first that you get, and that can help snowball.
All right, we've got two more. Aaron, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify, because we're in the public domain, you said an Air Force Museum. Is this the National Air Force Museum?
It is.
So just so people know, in the hierarchy, this is the top dog for,
it is.
Okay, which is very important.
Yep.
And then you kind of touched on it, the visitor numbers from outside. Do you have your annual numbers on what percentage come from outside of Christchurch?
We don't have them exactly, but I know for our Orion Open Days it's 10%. But we have a number, I would say over 10%, quite easily.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. No. Mark, please. Mark's last one.
Excellent, thank you. So would it be useful for us as a council also to help by talking to our connections in government to bring them to the table?
And one answer, yes, please. Oh, that was 2 words. But yeah, yes, because we have, and we had our lovely local MP, Honourable Megan Woods, has been at the museum twice. The Prime Minister was at the museum 2 weeks ago. The Minister for Veterans was at the museum opening a conference 4 weeks ago. So we are having lots of discussions. But yeah, I just want to get these aircraft on display to share them with the public. But thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you're not going to be too much over time today. And
No, we're all good. Thank you, Brett. And as we all know, it's an outstanding facility, and we're so lucky to have it here in Christchurch. So thanks for coming in. Thank you. Okay, Marjorie, please. Now, Marjorie's got 15 minutes because she's talking in 3